Hi guys, I don't know how many people are here waiting on me, but guess what? Today, Keto for Real Life People is doing a tips, tricks, troubleshooting the Keto Nutritional Yeast Bread. I know I'm looking up at this, but I've got kind of got my tripod set for tutorial, so I'm just looking up at everybody. All right, so I was live on Facebook earlier, and there were a lot of people with a lot of questions, and there have been. The nutritional yeast bread is so delicious, it's so easy, but there are some folks who's had a few problems with wet centers, hollow tops, not sure which type of psyllium husk powder they should use. I see y'all popping in there, and for posterity's sake, I'm going to try to go through this part here before we ever start with the actual bread making. And it's going to allow two things to happen. I've got my first batch in the oven, and they've only been in about 15-20 minutes, so we've got a ways to go before we actually pull my first batch out. And I think that's kind of cool because you're going to get to see it come straight out of the oven and what it's like, so that's going to be neat. And then I'm going to cover these tips, and then we'll get in here and we will get to making bread again. Everything keto is gluten-free, so this bread is keto friendly. It is gluten-free. It is high fat, low carb. I think the net carbs, 2 or 3 on the net carbs. And honestly, I think it just depends. I think the nutritional yeast maybe adds a carb to it. So even so, each batch makes 6 buns. So as we get to talking about this, let me just go over these tips so that I can keep a straight line before I answer anybody's questions, and just go over some of the things that I see all the time. Now, on YouTube, my nutritional yeast bread recipe is at 107,000 views, and that is awesome, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for making bread. And about 80% of the people who leave comments tell me that their bread is delicious. They don't have any issues with it. They're just glad. It's a game changer in the world of keto when this bread tastes like real bread. All right, but at about 15 to 20% of the people who are having trouble, that's concerning to me. I don't want anybody to have any trouble. I want everybody to enjoy it. It's so easy that it just becomes like, I don't even have to think about the recipe anymore. It's just in my head. And that's what I want everybody to be comfortable with. So the number one question that I seem to get is, why did my yeast bread turn out all doughy and undercooked in the middle? I split it open, I baked it for an hour, and it just never would dry out. What's the problem? Let me tell you what the problem with wet, doughy bread. It is the number one complaint that I have seen on the other video. The problem is undermixing. Undermixing the hot water and the psyllium husk dry ingredient mixture together has to go for a few minutes. And the reason being, that water is so hot, not because of yeast or anything, so that it can penetrate the whole psyllium husk. So while we're talking, let me show you the whole psyllium husk. Now, when I did my very first video, it was a live video on Facebook that I uploaded to YouTube. And I had only been making videos for a couple of months, so I really wasn't paying attention to the words coming out of my mouth. So when I did the first video, I said psyllium husk powder, when in reality it is whole psyllium husk. This is the brand that I use. It's the Now brand. It comes in a 1-pound bag. It runs me about $5.99 for this at my local health food store. Now, I'm not sure what stores y'all have available, so you can get it on Amazon, which I'll pop a link afterwards if this is the brand you want to use. And the reason I like it is because I had read prior to making bread, it is only one of the only brands that doesn't turn purple when you're cooking with it. Now, if you bought a different brand of psyllium husk, not powder, whole psyllium husk, and your bread does turn purple, enjoy purple bread. It's not going to affect the flavor or your health or anything like that. It's just the type of psyllium husk seed, I guess. So anyways, that's the information on the psyllium husk. Whole psyllium husk, all right? So when you're mixing this, I use very hot water. I just use my Keurig water. I just hit the 8-ounce button. It's almost boiling. It's like at 199 degrees for mine. And that is hot enough, I have found, to penetrate the whole psyllium husk and start soaking in. And I give it a good minute. And I'm going to show you when we do this, I'm going to show you how you need to do it. Really, your mixing is going to be in 3 parts. You're going to put your dry ingredients in the bowl, and then you're going to add your hot water, and you're going to mix. And then you're going to add your eggs, and then you're going to mix. So when you do it this way, you avoid the second most common question, which is, why are the tops of my bread hollow? Well, if you overmix eggs, then you're going to end up with big holes in your bread. If you undermix it, again, you're going to end up with wet bread. So the easiest way I found to do this is put the hot water in, mix, 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 and I'm going to show you how that works. And once it does, then we're going to add the eggs. We're going to incorporate it. And I'm not just going to plop all the eggs in now. I'm going to show you how I do it now and how the texture of my bread has improved greatly. All right? So that's the second most common question that I get asked on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I hope that helps. And I cannot answer any comments right now until I get through this list. I want to explain about options. Now, some people don't have a stand mixer. If you don't have a stand mixer, I have spoke with other members on my Facebook group or just people on YouTube who've said they've used a hand mixer and that it worked out just fine. I've also had members who have used a food processor and said it works out just fine. Technically, if you don't have any of those products, could you use a wooden spoon in a bowl? You sure could. Just realize it's going to take a lot more effort to get that dry mixture and that hot water together. But those are your options. You can use the stand mixer, you can use a hand mixer, or you can use a food processor. Any of those 3 items will work. Next on my list of questions is, can I make it into a loaf? Sorry. Sorry, no. At this point in time, you guys, I have tried loafing this. It's not wheat. Wheat is lighter, it's gluten, it has elasticity in it that allows it to rise and do all kinds of sciencey things in the oven that this bread does not do. It is too dense, it's too heavy. I have tried more than one time. I've even tried putting it in smaller loaf pans to see if I could get like some mini loaves, and yet I have not had success with a loaf. So no to the loaf. My next endeavor though is to try just maybe doing a rustic shaped bread, maybe, you know, a half and half type deal, so I could get 2 loaves that could be maybe sliced. Haven't tried that yet, but it's coming. Next question that I come across is, can I use my bread machine? No, sorry. Again, we run into the same problem that we had with the loaf pan. It has to go straight up vertically and cook in and bake in a bread machine, and it doesn't have the gluten and the elasticity and the lightness that it needs to allow. And guys, the other element that's missing for both bread machine and loaf is yeast. Even though this bread has yeast in it, the yeast itself is for flavor and taste. It doesn't have anything to do with whether or not the bread rises. Hence the eggs in the bread. The eggs and the vinegar are that little combination that allows the bread to rise. The yeast and the nutritional yeast are for 2 things. The yeast itself is for flavor, and that's why it calls for so little. And the nutritional yeast is also for flavor, but also fortifies your bread with B vitamins. So it gives a nutritional boost as well as flavor. Another question that I get behind the bread is, can I skip the nutritional yeast? You can. You definitely can skip nutritional yeast if you don't have any on hand. But I will tell you, if you skip the nutritional yeast, you will lose out on a lot of flavor. It becomes more bland. I originally saw this recipe on Pinterest. It was simple. It didn't have the nutritional yeast. It didn't have the yeast, and it did use baking powder. And for me, as a baker and a cook, I knew that baking powder was going to end up being more like a quick bread, and I knew that the flavor was going to come through because baking powder has a very distinct flavor, and it's only really tasty in things like banana nut bread, zucchini bread, or biscuits. Again, those are quick breads. So I never even tried that recipe. I just said I'm going to eliminate the baking powder and I'm going to put in the nutritional yeast and I'm going to do this and that. And this is how I ended up with this. So you don't have to have the yeast. You don't even have to have the nutritional yeast. But I don't think that you're going to enjoy the flavor or the wonderful aroma that is in your house while it's baking. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. My kitchen smells fabulous. It actually is making me hungry. All right, moving it on. And I'm killing time here. I got 1:16. I think we got 30 minutes before this first batch comes out. Yes, nutritional yeast, secret ingredient for faster. So, here we go. Let's talk about loaf mixing, wet hands. Here's another thing too, guys. Wetness. Almond flour tends to be super sticky. Whether you're making a fathead pizza, and that only calls for 3/4 of a cup, or you're making nutritional yeast bread. There's something about it that it just wants to stick to your hands. I used to run the water constantly and just, keep my hands wet, But I found this is all the water I need to keep my hands wet. It's just a tiny little thing, and it's just a matter of dipping your hands and getting them moist. I take 2 little dips and that's it. And you can work with it. And every time you start feeling a little stick, you just tap your 2 fingers into it and you do this way. That bread just becomes very pliable, easy to manipulate. It's not getting all soggy with drippy wet hands. And I found this tip to work also with your fathead pizza. There's no need for soggy hands and adding extra moisture to something that doesn't need it. So with that being said, let's see, what else do we have to cover? Last but not least, how to use a YouTube drop down. I'm going to explain this really quick. Thank you guys. I will tell you right now that the comments pop in really quick and then they fade away really quick, and I would have to be standing here scrolling. And I really just want to keep this one focused on getting this clear, concise tips and tutorial all the way through. See, I keep seeing it here. All right, so this is the last thing I'm going to explain to you, how YouTube works. Because I know even my friend Dory, who's pretty savvy when it comes to this sort of stuff, didn't know about this. So if you're on YouTube and you're scrolling around, let's just do it this way, okay? I'm going to move my little table out of the way and come up here close and see if I can't get this to, there we go, get glare off. I'm going to try to move this so that there's not as much glare on this, but you know how they are. Dang it. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to scroll down to my nutritional yeast recipe. All right, this is my bread recipe, y'all. And I'm going to pause it because I cannot stand hearing my voice. But I want to show you something. Let me see if I can get this to where, there we go. Okay. So you will see the title is right here underneath the video. All right. But right beside the title, right there is a tiny little triangle. And when I tap it, it opens up and you can scroll. And that's exactly where you'll find the recipe. You'll find tips and tricks. And, let me get this where you can see it again. I had it in a good spot for a second and the sun shifted. There we go. So anyways, you do this and this is, you will find the the macros, the recipe, any tips and tricks. And you will also see my links for YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Patreon, and all of that. So I just wanted to explain how easy that is. Again, we just come up here, and right beside it is a tiny little triangle. See how it closes up real quick, and then you're back to just seeing videos? There we go. And then when you tap it again, there it is. It opens and closes with the tap of a finger. And that's any YouTube video, y'all. So that's all I wanted to do here. I'm going to take a moment to move this stuff off my little workstation. And then now I will do a little Q&A with y'all, because I would love to wrap this one up, you guys. Let's see here now. Joan says she's so glad that I'm doing a follow-up video. Awesome, guys. Thank you. Okay. Gluten-free, we covered that. Hello, colorful Keto Dory, my lovely, lovely lady. Thank you for popping in. Okay. Yes. We cannot post in here the same way on YouTube as we do on Facebook. Let's see. Your recipes are great. Could you use the dough cycle in the bread maker? I think I just answered that one, right? So, Sissy, no, we cannot use a bread maker. Lynn cannot. That's Lynn Wright, right? Can't wait for her stuff to come in from Amazon. Nutritional yeast is what it says is so good for you. Use it all the time. Yeah, you can use nutritional yeast. I use it for my bread a lot, but I use it for other things as well. Okay, so, and here we are. Let's get started on the tutorial now, because we are getting down to it. I'm going to take a quick peek. Oh my God. I always get thrilled too. I'm looking in the oven and I'm seeing these beautiful balls. And I will tell you a couple of things that I do. Just because I'm OCD, you don't have to, but I love my food scale. I take a piece of I put the dough on a piece of parchment paper, and then I weigh it out, and then I divide it up. But you guys are going to see all that in the future. So come with me. Let me move this stuff out of the way. And we're going to go over here and get started step by step. And I'm going to try my darndest to show you every tip and trick here. And I'm using a different tripod today, guys. So I'm going to turn you just a little bit so that you can see. Yeah, Michelle says she's OCD too. And I hit my limit on how high I can go with this thing. So now I could adjust the legs, but I'm not going to. So here we go, guys. I'm going to move this around. And I'm going to tilt it. I want to be able to move this thing freely without too much complication, too much shaking. All right, this is exactly how I make my bread. I start with my almond flour, and does it make a difference if it's almond flour or almond meal? Not particularly. Everybody asks me, why is your bread so much lighter? I'm using very fine almond flour. The almonds have been blanched. The outer husks have been removed, so therefore it looks lighter in color. And it does have a little less fiber. So if you want that extra fiber, go ahead and do the almond meal, and you can grind it up yourself if you want and make it a little finer. So into my bowl, and I'm going to show you another thing. I use the paddle, not the hook. It's not traditional wheat bread, so we don't need a hook. I start with 1 1/4 cup almond flour. I do the scoop method for this. I don't use a spoon and measure it out that way. I just do that until I have 1 cup. And then we move on over to 1/4 cup. So that is a total of 1 1/4 cups of almond flour. And I'm trying to get out of here, out of the screen a little bit. So there we go there. Then we move on to the next, which is 5 tablespoons of whole psyllium husk. Whole psyllium husk. Again, I just reach into the bag. I use the back of the bag and just level it off. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that's out of the way. Next on the dry ingredient list is my nutritional yeast, which I'm starting to get a little low on. And I use a tablespoon of this. Could you add more? Probably if you wanted to. I don't think it's going to make a heck of a difference. But I just loosely do that, and I get, it's a little heavy, it's a little rounded. 1 tablespoon of the nutritional yeast. Next, yeast. Now, does it make a difference? Back when I first started making this bread, you guys, I thought that the yeast was going to be a game changer until I realized, oh, wait, it doesn't have sugar, so it's just flavor. 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, I've gotten to where I just put it in there. I just like the flavor of it. It's not going to rise. It's just going to add flavor. And let me tell you, on the nutritional information, 0 carbs per packet. So, what the hey? What the who? What the hi? Hi, out there in Alberta. Just eat raw, healthy food, and that's it. I kind of like my food cooked. I like some raw, but I kind of like it cooked too. So here we come into some salt is next, guys. And teaspoon, half teaspoon. I just do it like that and add a little salt. And that's the pink Himalayan sea salt. And that's my dry ingredients. Now, this is what I call my first mixing, because I just blend everything up. Just give it a second. As you can see, it's just incorporating everything evenly so that the psyllium husk and the almond flour is all together. That's your first mixing. Now then, let me come back here and just move you guys with me for a second, because I'm going to get some hot water out of my Keurig. I just hit the 8-ounce button. It just makes it that much quicker. I'm all scooched down here like this. That way I'll hide my sink of dishes, right? So this water comes out at about 199 degrees. It's not quite boiling. It just has to be hot enough. And it's easier to say boiling water than it is like almost boiling water. But it doesn't take but a second, and we're going to get to the all-important step. Here we go. So back over we go. And I'm going to take you guys right here and make sure that we are set you down so that you can see this. I'm going to get you guys in as close as I can to this. And I'm going to tilt this, and I'm going to be out of frame for a minute, but I just want you to be able to see down in this bowl. There we go. All right, let's get her going. So I'm going to turn this on to mix. It's the lowest setting. And here's the hot water, you guys. And I want you to watch what the dough does when I add the hot water. Okay? I'm just giving it a second to get in there. And you see it's starting to come together. You see the steam rising off of it. It sounds wet to me, you guys. You can tell that it's wet. And again, the steam is still coming off. What's happening here is that hot water is penetrating the whole psyllium husk. And you're going to hear a slight sound in my machine because it's going to bog down just for a second once it starts absorbing. And you'll notice a little gelling taking place, like it starts looking a little bouncy. The dough looks a little bouncy. Oh, I forgot to lock that. There we go. And there we go. Let me turn this off and let me show you what I'm talking about here. Oops, wrong way. Wrong lock. Let me grab my spatula. Now this dough, it's still warm, but it is already doughy, and you can just see the texture of it. Okay? Now we're going to do the eggs, and I want you to watch again what happens. I've got 3 egg whites and 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar here, and rather than just dump it all in at once, I'm going to let it plop into about 3. There's that. And look what happens to the dough. it kind of separates. I don't know if any of y'all ever made puff pastry before, but this is the same process. It will separate, but then it will come back together. So now it's separated a bit, and then it'll start sucking back in, and when it does that, then it's time to add a little bit more egg. And now it's coming together. So I'm gonna give it another plop. And again, it's gonna fall apart in the bowl. David, thank you for, or Deval, thank you for all your information. We appreciate it. All right, and see, and now here it is coming back together. And last but not least, I'm just gonna add that last bit. And I'm gonna kick this up one notch, just like a half notch is all. There we go. And I'm gonna let it do its magic, maybe for about a minute and a half, two. This is where you don't wanna overmix on this second, or this last part of the mixing, because we do not wanna turn it into hollow topped, hollow bread. So we just wait and we're patient. That bread over there only has about 15 minutes left on it, and it's gonna be so scrumptious, so delicious. Okay, now I can see that just by looking at this, you know, it's sticking up on the sides a bit. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it off, turn it, and I'm gonna do a little test on it, because it is gonna be a little wet, you guys, but it's not gonna be doughy wet, all right? You see how it has a, let me see if you can tell if I take this off of here. There's, I don't want that one to fall off, but there's a little jiggliness to this. You know, it's got some pliability. And I'm gonna take my spatula and I'm gonna kind of scrape it. And I'm gonna take it off here so that you can see right down into the bowl. And it has a bounciness to it, so I know that it's done. So what I'm gonna do now is pull the camera back here and tilt you guys up so that you're not having to stare straight down at my counters. Everybody needs options, right? Let's all be nice and kind. I always say this about different ways of eating, okay? And this is YouTube, so it's a little different, y'all. You know, we're not just a private group here, we are public to the world here. And when it comes to different eating options, I say this: if it's healthy, it improves your health, then you do you, boo. That's great. You know, you can do however you want to. Some people like paleo, some people like carnivore, some people like keto, some people like being vegan, some people like the zone, some people like Atkins. I mean, some people even like Weight Watchers. It's their choice, but not mine. All right. So long as we can all agree healthy food is good for us. Okay, when you have tried all the options, oh, that's crosstalk. I'm gonna let y'all have at it. So here we come down into the next stage. I'm gonna check my bread. I'm at 133. I'm looking to pull at 145. Looks like I'm perfectly on track. And here we go. So I'm just gonna take this dough and I'm gonna weigh it real quick. I do it every time, and I'm gonna come up with probably my last batch weighed in at about 18 ounces. Let me tear it on. Yeah, I've got it on ounces, so I'm gonna plop this out. It was just barely over 18 ounces, and I count that for the paper. And no, I didn't hit the tear button, but 18. It says actually 18.55. So, but I didn't tear the paper first. So, get this out of the way. And this, there we go. I want you guys to see this dough. This is what it looks like. It's got a bouncy texture. It smells delicious. And I'm fixing to put it on a pan. Oh my goodness. have a piece of parchment paper already pre-cut for my other pan, but this is the one I'm going to use instead, so I can just start this whole situation going here. Here we go. Initial hands getting wet. All I do, guys, let me see if I can tilt you down. I want you to be able to watch what I'm doing, not just my face. I'm going to get that down there. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. Here we go. All right, so I have my parchment paper on my pan. I've got my dough right here. I've got some water to keep my hands wet, and I just go and I pinch a ball of this off. And I know it's going to need to be bigger. According to my scale, I like putting these at 2.96. It accounts for the little bit of weight, and I can just pop it in there. 2.82, 89, 96, and that's what I'm used to, guys. So I'm getting my hands a little dab of water. They're wet, and I just take the dough. And some people say, well, mine are so flat they didn't rise. Shape does matter. So I just kind of roll it, and I give it a little bit of a flatness to it, but not an over flat, okay? Then I dip my hands back in some water, and I pinch off another section of dough, and I put it on here. 2.86, 93, 2.96, and I grab it up. And don't be afraid of it. It's not delicate. It's not going to hurt it. Just get it in a nice little ball, and then give it a little squidge. A little squidge. And on we go to the next one. 265, 293, 303, 296, and I'm back at it. Hands are wet, and I just kind of make it into this little ball. And give it a little pat. And it's just a simple process. Each ball of dough makes 6 buns. You can shape these differently if you like, into hot dog buns or hoagie buns, however you want to. I knew that was too much. And 2.96. There we go. And for the sake of just making them, I'm making them into buns because I just want you guys to see how they are shaped, how I get nice round high buns. And don't you be laughing, because I know how y'all, some of you thinking about that comment right there. It's way light. 4.7. Up we go. 7.2. 8.9. Too much. And 2.96. And round we go. Just like that. And let's see what our last one weighs. I'm going to tell you my last one always weighs out over 3, and I have one little pinch that I pull off because I want it to be at 2.96, just like the other ones. Up too much. But that's my OCD, and I am aware of it, y'all. 2.96, okay. And I always end up with that little bit of dough left. I don't know why, but my scale likes that number. It's easier to come up to. And you just, there we go. Let me rinse my hands. Okay, that was my first grab at paper towel. Now let me bring you guys back up. Hello, did you miss me? Hold on. Tilt. Okay, there we go. What do you need, baby? No, my bread's not burning. See, that's a common misconception. You thinking right when you get down to the end of it that, oh my God, it's getting dark, it's gonna burn. It's not burning. Don't trust it. Love you, darling. He's home for lunch. So, now I've got my bread here. He's ready to go. I'm gonna take a minute to see some comments. Let's see. The rolls are wonderful. Baking with Nancy. Yes, it's way too heavy to make a loaf. Let's see. Yes, no, we are not at now. Okay, so I've been doing some research. This bread has turned into so many different things. So I'm doing some research. Can I activate the yeast by using something sweet? Yes, but what sweetener besides pure sugar will activate yeast? Well, in my research, I found that blackstrap will. And the thing about it is, it's sugar. It's sugar. It's still a form of sugar, but I hear that the blackstrap is very low on the glycemic index. And if I could get by with just a small enough amount to activate it without changing the carbs into something terrible, then I will do it. But I'm going to play with it. And once I figure that out and get a macro count and know that the sugars are going to be like very zero on the glycemic index, then I will let you guys know. Diane, sometimes yours is purple because of the brand. If it's the Now brand, I hear it doesn't. I've yet to have any of my bread turn purple. Another reason that I've read about, haven't experienced, is that if you don't make bread very often, or you don't use your psyllium husk very often and it sits on the shelf for a while, something happens to it and your bread will turn purple that way. Again, it's like chocolate turning white a little bit. It's not gonna hurt anything, it's just gonna change color. Okay. Well, I read that yeast eats the sugar so that it won't count as carbs. I've read that too. And one of the things I thought about too, guys, is does it really matter? I mean, we've got, a loaf would be wonderful, right? Sliced bread, oh, with the taste and texture of this, it would be great as sliced bread. But if I never achieve that, because if it's gonna mess with my keto, I'm not gonna do it. That's the bottom line. But if I can figure it out, it would be fantastic. No. You know, blackstrap and molasses is the byproduct of sugar. So, but it's a different chemical makeup, so it's going to make a difference. And while I'm at it, guys, let me tell you, I tried to make this into crackers one time, and it did not work at all. I did modify this recipe, so if you haven't had an opportunity to make crackers yet, go watch the cracker tutorial, because that one was good. To that, I change it and add some fat and do a twice baking. If you've ever had biscotti, if you love dipping biscotti, I found that's the secret to crackers on the keto world. It makes wonderful crackers. You can take this bread dough, instead of making this into 6 buns, you can roll it out, make it into 2 portions, roll them out, make flatbread. You can make pizza crust, you can make flatbread, you can make tortillas, you can make croutons with this as well. It's truly a versatile recipe. I'm gonna check my bread. I am coming up on 7 minutes away, so I probably shouldn't check it for another 2 minutes, but I'm gonna look, and it doesn't even look like it's burning. That man, he didn't know. Let's see. Pierre says, wife made the crackers and they came out awesome, nice crunching, can make any flavor profile you want. Yes. So you can make them a little thinner, you can make them a little thicker. Oh, those crackers, I made, oh gosh, a double batch last week. Of course, there's none left. My husband did like those. And I made one batch of just like garlic and herb, and the other ones I used the everything bagel seasoning in with the poppy seeds and all that. They were so, so delicious. My next endeavor is to add cheese to them, just because I would like a nice cheese cracker too, with like a Cheez-It style. And you can take that cracker recipe and not dock it, cut them into teeny little like cubes, and if you miss pretzels, like those little puffy pretzels, all you have to do is roll that dough out and cut it into little pieces. It's so good. Don't burn them like I did. Nacho crackers. That's right. You can make nacho crackers. All right, so I'm 1 minute away. Okay, guys, let me show you. This is the bread straight out of the oven. You see how they are nice in color and they are nice and high. I will tell you, as these cool down, they will darken. It's just the psyllium husk and the almond flour combination, but they lift right off. They're all symmetrical. They all weigh the same. I know that my carb count is going to be the same, but you don't have to be as precise or persnickety as I am. I'm going to give these a minute to cool, okay, because they do need that. Let me take them off this pan. I'm going to have to get a bread basket together and just take a picture. Ow, son of a gun. I just burnt my arm again. You guys, if you notice, now you can't see what I just did because it's down lower and it's white, but I'm constantly burning myself. There's this weekend's. So let me throw this parchment paper away and you end up with a clean pan. Put this there and we can go in with the next batch. I hope that this tutorial has been helpful for you. We're going to give this bread just a few seconds and then I'm going to cut it for you. See how pretty my bread is, baby?
Gorgeous.
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 Yes.
Smells good.
It does smell good, doesn't it? Oh, I love all the emojis, you guys. Hey, okay, while I'm giving this a second, let's just talk shop because I am on YouTube and I haven't said the magic words yet that every YouTuber must do, right? And that is, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Please subscribe to my Keto for Real Life People channel. All you do is tap the subscribe button right there. And then if you want to get notifications about when I'm doing a live video or whether I've uploaded a new video, hit the little bell for the notifications and you'll get a ding. There goes Keto for Real Life People. The other thing that's so important to everybody who is an artist or a creator or an educator on YouTube is share. Like, share, comment. You can hit share, copy link, and just paste it right over on Facebook or Instagram or wherever you want to share it, or email it to a friend so they have this in their library. Please do that. And if you found any value in this, if you find value in what I do with cooking tutorials or education and you would like to become one of my Patreons, I have a link that will be up as well, and you can go to Patreon and throw $1 my way, and I'd appreciate that too. So there we go. I got it out of the way. I hate saying that stuff, but I have to. Okay. Dun dun dun. Which knife do I want to use? Now that bread's still really hot, but I like this knife because it's a little thinner, and hopefully I should just here. Give me the last few seconds of this. Last few seconds. I need to move this bread, this pan. Oh, I know I gotta move that too. Move this pan over here. Let's see if my husband left me any butter. No, of course not. This is what happens when you go on a ladies' getaway. Your hubby eats all the butter and leaves the butter dish dirty. But it's all good. It's hot. It'll work, right? So I'm going to do this right here. Let's get this. And I go low, guys. I do go low because it's going to have its own little air bubble. But I do it like this. I look at it and I think that's how thick a bun would be on the bottom. So I'm going to get that going. And I'm going to slice it right across there. And we're going to open it and see what we get. There's one little air bubble there, but mostly it's all together. And I think if I had let this set a little longer, it would finish its duty, okay? But I want you to see it's completely done. And I haven't ate yet. Actually, I haven't really ate anything. I did taste this jelly this morning. That was it. So I'm gonna take a little bit of this Amish butter that I bought. It's so tasty. And I'm gonna put it on this bun because it's so yummy. And I'm just gonna give it a second to soften because my husband, he's like, you just blame me for everything, Nancy. Well, of course I do. What do you think? I didn't do it. There's me, there's you. It was you. It wasn't me. So hot bread. Let's see if it softened my butter. It did. Give it a little spread. And then, you guys, this weekend while I was away on a ladies' weekend, I made some blueberry keto jelly. Again, this is one of those things, I wouldn't be eating it all day, every day, just because it would mess with my weight loss program. But I will give it a little smear, and there's what we have, you guys. This is your keto nutritional yeast bread. It smells delicious. It's hot. It's all that. Mmm, so good, guys. Yeah. So, that's it, guys. This is the keto nutritional bread tips and tricks. I hope it helped everybody. I hope that you have happy bread making in your kitchen. If you have made this and you've got lots of success, go to Facebook. We've got Facebook, Instagram, everything's under Keto for Real Life People. Group, page, IG. Show us your pictures. Comment below. Let me know how it goes for you. And hopefully we can get this to where everybody's making bread and happy. Remember, guys, fats first, moderate protein, low carb, and get you some.